In 2009, during the worst financial crisis in a generation, 3 broke founders were living in a San Francisco apartment with maxed out credit cards and a box of cereal. Not metaphorically, actual cereal. They had designed novelty election-themed cereal boxes, hand-glued them shut in their kitchen, and sold them online for $40 each to pay their rent. They called one Obama O's. The other was McCains. They sold $30,000 worth. At one investor meeting, the man across the table stood up and left in the middle of the pitch to go to the bathroom. He never came back. He didn't even finish his smoothie. That company, the one nobody wanted, run by the founders, eating their own unsold cereal, went public in December 2020 at a valuation of over $100 billion. More than Marriott, Hilton, and Hyatt combined. The 3 people who built it still owned 31% when it happened. This is the story of Airbnb. If you're new here, we cover stories like this every week. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Brian Chesky grew up in Niskayuna, New York, the son of 2 social workers. He was a hockey kid who fell in love with art in his teens and became obsessed with Leonardo da Vinci. He didn't go to business school or engineering school. He went to the Rhode Island School of Design, one of the most prestigious art colleges in America, and studied industrial design. Joe Gebbia was at RISD at the same time. The 2 became close friends. Both designers, both entrepreneurs at heart. Both completely broke by the time they moved to San Francisco in 2007. Chesky had just quit a design job in Los Angeles. Gebbia was running a side project, building cushions for people with back problems. Neither of them had enough money to cover rent. That October, a design conference came to San Francisco. Every hotel in the city sold out. Gebbia had an idea. He emailed Chesky one night, what if they turned their living room into a makeshift bed and breakfast? They had 3 airbeds, they could charge conference attendees to sleep on them and serve breakfast in the morning. Chesky agreed. They set up a basic website called airbedandbreakfast.com. 3 guests showed up and paid $80 each. 2 men and 1 woman. All designers, all perfectly normal people. They came in, used the air mattresses, had breakfast, and left. Chesky later said, something clicked that night. Not just that people would pay, but that they genuinely enjoyed it. They wanted the experience. They weren't just renting a floor, they were staying with locals, getting tips, seeing the city differently. The transaction wasn't just financial, it was human. They decided to make it a company. The 3rd co-founder was Nate Blecharczyk, a Harvard computer science graduate who had made $1 million as a teenager in email marketing. He was a former roommate of Gebbia's, meticulous and precise in everything Chesky and Gebbia were not. They brought him in as CTO to build the technical infrastructure. Chesky was the vision, Gebbia was the design. Nate was the engine. They launched officially at South by Southwest in March 2008, 2 bookings. One of them was Chesky himself. They tried again that summer at the Democratic National Convention in Denver, where 80,000 people descended on a city with nowhere near enough hotel rooms. They marketed directly to the crowds. TechCrunch covered them. The website crashed from traffic. They got 600 bookings. It felt like a breakthrough. But here's where things went wrong. After the convention, traffic dropped off a cliff. The spike had been real, but the underlying business wasn't growing. By the end of 2008, they were in the worst recession in decades, running on fumes and each carrying over $20,000 in personal credit card debt. They had pitched 15 angel investors. Half never replied. Most of the others said no. One walked out mid-pitch as mentioned, never to return. They started eating the leftover McCains cereal they hadn't sold. In late 2008, a mutual friend pointed them toward a startup accelerator called Combinator, run by a programmer and essayist named Paul Graham. Combinator gave small amounts of money and mentorship to early-stage founders. The application deadline had already passed. Their friend lobbied Graham personally to give them a shot. Graham agreed to an interview. He didn't love the idea. Nobody did. Letting strangers sleep in your home seemed insane to most people in 2008. But he loved the founders. He later wrote that, after their interview, he and his partners just looked at each other and smiled. He called Brian Chesky the Tasmanian Devil because he moved through the room like a controlled explosion of energy. Y Combinator accepted them into the winter 2009 batch, $20,000 in funding in exchange for 6% of the company. It was their last chance. They had agreed privately that if this didn't work, they were done. Graham gave them one instruction that changed everything. Stop trying to grow from San Francisco. Go to New York, where your actual users are. Meet them in person, go into their apartments, understand why some listings work and some don't. Chesky and Gebbia flew to New York with cameras and spent weeks visiting hosts. What they found was obvious in hindsight, but nobody had acted on it before. The listings that weren't getting bookings had terrible photos. Blurry, dark, shot from bad angles. Nobody could see what they were actually paying for. So Chesky and Gebbia started photographing apartments themselves. Professional quality, good light, honest, but appealing. Bookings in those listings doubled overnight. Back in San Francisco, Paul Graham received a short email from Brian Chesky announcing they'd hit ramen profitability, the point where revenue covers founders' basic living expenses. Graham responded, "You know what you've just set yourself up for next week." Chesky's reply was 7 words. "We are not going to slow down." They were airborne. The team had taped their ramen profitability target to the bathroom mirror. $4,000 a month, enough for rent and food. They blew past it, then past the next number, and the next in April 2009, Sequoia Capital led a $600,000 seed round at a $2.4 million valuation. The investors who passed on Airbnb in 2008 would spend years regretting it. Fred Wilson of Union Square Ventures, one of the most respected VCs in America, turned them down. He later wrote publicly about the mistake and kept the cereal box Chesky had left him as a reminder never to do it again. By March 2009, they had 2,500 listings and 10,000 users. By 2011, 1 million bookings. The hospitality industry, watching from a distance, assumed this was a fad. Short-term rentals from strangers who would actually do that at scale. It turned out, everyone. By 2014, Airbnb was valued at $10 billion. By 2017, they had 100 million users. Then COVID hit in 2020, and travel collapsed globally overnight. Bookings fell by 80% in 8 weeks. Airbnb had been weeks away from its IPO and was suddenly burning through cash faster than it could count. Chesky laid off 1,900 employees, a quarter of the company, and wrote one of the most widely praised corporate letters in tech history, explaining every decision in plain language and guaranteeing severance and healthcare. Then something strange happened. As the world slowly reopened, Airbnb came back stronger. People didn't want to return to the same kind of travel they'd done before. They wanted longer stays, smaller towns, homes over hotels. Remote work meant you could be anywhere. Airbnb was built exactly for that moment. In December 2020, Airbnb went public on the Nasdaq, priced at $68 a share. It closed day one at $144. The company was worth over $100 billion. 3 art school graduates, 3 maxed credit cards, 1 binder stuffed with rejected investor emails, and $30,000 worth of novelty cereal. The same building in San Francisco where 2 of them had once struggled to make rent was now the headquarters of a company worth more than the 3 largest hotel chains on Earth put together. They had bet everything on a simple idea that every investor told them was crazy, that strangers could trust each other enough to share their homes. They were right. 2 billion stays later, the world agreed. If you want more stories like this, there's a playlist on this channel. And if this one taught you something new, hit like. It helps more people find these stories. See you in the next one.